topic that I have is speaking about the place of children's rights when it comes to how what basically they ought to be the legal rights of a child. How do you shape the future of a community, of a nation, of even the global future? This, since basically, just like Mrs. Summer said, we're talking about the future belongs to the children. So how do you shape that future? And how do you put it in the context of the rights of those children? So the way I would take this paper is I will first do the macro, or maybe call the global aspect of child rights. Then I'll come to the African perspective. Then I'll dovetail into the Nigerian perspective. And then I'll pick Lagos State as an example of what it's happening in that capacity. In between time, maybe I will share also anecdotes that will help you to, it might be from my own point of view alone, or it could also be your point of view, or it could be that you have a disparaging viewpoint about that issue, but I will share my experiences as well, because I also I've done so many cases about child rights, adoption, custody cases and issues. Even till the day before yesterday, I was still talking about custodial rights of a child. And sometimes you see parents fighting. Maybe things have gone sour between them, but it becomes like children become like the scoring points about it. And so, what's the law perspective or legal perspective of this? I would also talk to that as well. So, let us start off with the global aspect of it. Globally, the right of child is considered as very important, very major, I must say, very major, to the extent that there have been laws that have been done or put in place over time to address the issue of the right of children. One of the very pivotal law that came up was United Nations Convention of the Rights of the Children of the Child. Sorry, that was adopted in 1989. It was the first time, I swear, that cohesively there was a major, let's call it convention, that was put in place to safeguard the interests of the child. And basically that's, we call it UNCRC, United Nations Conventions on the Rights of the Child. It talks about non-discrimination of the child, regardless of their race, gender, background, their entire equal rights. It also talk about the best interest of a child. So it's like whatever is happening anywhere at all, the primary interest should be the best interest of a child, and it also addresses the right to survival and development of that child. So every child is deemed to have the right to life. Their best interest must always be primary. I mean, the government must ensure that the survival and development of the child or children in that society is put on the priority list, and they have the right to participate. So what that means is that a child has the right to express their views about matters that affects them. So it's not a case of those days where we see that a child doesn't know, I cannot talk for myself. But right now, the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Child says that a child will have the right to add a voice to whatever decision has to be taken. So the child has the right to identity, the right to education, the right to health, the right to protection from abuse and exploitation, the right to parental care and family life. These are all rights that are embodied. And when you say a right, it's assumed that the child does not even need to do anything. Just that he's a child, has the right, there comes an inalienable right of that child to have good health, to have the right to to good health. That's why lately there was a case in point when, due to religious reason, it happened in Lagos State. The parents of a child refused to allow blood transfusion, and of course, the state wanted to give the child that transfusion, but they refused, and obviously the child passed on. So Lagos State took it upon themselves to sue, to kind of prosecute and to say like that was a criminal offense because like they contributed to, like they call it manslaughter, or because it contributed to the child's death as well. So it's like, look, even though as a parent you brought the child out, but the basic thing with United Nations Convention of Rights of the Child is that, look, that child has a life of his own or her own instantly. And so even though you are going to be the one that is you have a custodial right over the child, but the child ultimately is a responsibility of the state to protect. So this works in that sense. Now, if you go to Africa, coming to Africa, it's almost the same thing, more or less, that you have the same, so there's an adoption more or less of that United Nations Convention of Rights of the Child. But in addition to that, in 1990, there was what you call African Charter of Rights and the Welfare of Child. African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child. So that was 1990, which this one specifically addresses the unique challenges faced by the children in Africa. Like it's an embodiment of what you have in United Nations Convention of Rights of the Child, but now it is now expanded to include the fact that there are peculiar things that about African child. So it builds on it, but highlights cultural context, African cultural context, so that the right of child in armed situation, the importance of family, how the family, is interwoven with the right of the child, and protection against child labor and exploitation. So you have that, key rights, just like you have another United Nations Convention of Human Rights, the right of the child. So you have right to education, right to health care, and going on like that. But there are challenges, of course, that because of in Africa, the poverty ratio is actually very high. So you have a situation where because of the poverty ratio, there are a lot of things that the right of the child is kind of put in abeyance in some instances. So you can see a family, because of maybe the economic situation, put the child out to be walking until late night, but till 9 o'clock or so. Ideally, the child should not be on the road at all, not to mention being on the road to 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock or so. You can see, and that child might be the one that's actually bringing income for the family, one way or the other. So, and then you have a lot of, like, you have the displaced people, around, like in North, Boko Haram, you find in almost everywhere. So there's a peculiarity that you cannot, in that sense, see the same, cannot give the same measure of weight to the right of a child in maybe the Western Hemisphere and what you have in Africa. So that, has become a challenge. And then also cultural challenges and traditional challenges, like, genital mutilation of a girl child is still going on, so much so that, despite all what government have done, so because they are steeped in tradition, they're steeped in culture, so people feel that, look, you cannot stop us from doing it. And so also there are so many cases of weak legal enforcement. For a long time, you find that, even right there in the barracks, the wives of police officers are battering children, they're battering their house helps and things. And so we now ask that, okay, go and arrest somebody who is battering their own child. It becomes like in a moral dilemma. I mean, what has the woman done? What has the woman done? Which we have not seen before. So that becomes an issue, as it were. Going to the coming to Nigeria sector. So it's still the same United Nations Conventions of Rights of the Child, and then added to that the African Charter on the Rights and the Welfare of the Child. But these laws have been domesticated into the Nigerian legal climate, so that we have what's called the Child's Rights Act. We call it CRA of 2003, that says, basically is now a law in Nigeria, because until a treaty is domesticated in Nigeria, you cannot apply that treaty. So no matter how beautiful that treaty is on the international level, if it's not steeped into Nigeria, brought into Nigeria, legal climb or legal threshold with an appropriate adoption, it will not fly as a law. So what was done in 2003 was that there was a Child Rights Act that was passed. Now, they also know that Nigeria is a federation. So when you have a law or an act done at the federal level, it does not automatically, particularly when it's on issues that has to do with matters that the states can handle it and the federal government can handle it. So there's something I call it exclusive list, which is like what only the federal government can handle, and there's what we call the concurrent list, and then there's what we call residual assembly list. So for the exclusive list of governance or instruments of governance, it is the one that only the federal government can do. Now the concurrent list is the one that the state and the federal government can do. So on the issue of children, it's on a concurrent list. That means that the state has the right to do their law as per what they want to do with their children in their state, and federal has to do their law. So the federal government passed a law, which is Child Rights Act of 2003. Now, what that means is that the states are not obligated to use that law until they have also domesticated it in their own state. So you have that Child Rights Act of 2003 is not widespread in Nigeria. Some states have not adopted since that time, almost about 20 years or more now, or 21 years or so more. So they have not adopted it, they just kept in abeyance. Well, a state like Lagos State has adopted it, so you have the Child Rights Law of Lagos State. So, and the key provisions of that act is just saying that, look, a child has the right to survival, has the right to development, that he has the right to life, he has the right to balanced development, has the right to education, has the right to free, compulsory primary education, and affordable secondary education, has the right to health care, has the right to physical and mental well-being, has the right to be protected from harm, has the right to family life. So now, this means that when a child is born in Nigeria, it's supposed, and I want to watch the word I use now, is supposed, because maybe the children that are living in Abuja, in that sphere, automatically will have the rights to this law. But those who are living in the states of federation, if they have not domesticated this law, it might mean that maybe that right is put in abeyance. But for Lagos State, it is there. So the right, child rights, so for Lagos State, a child has the right to identity. It's put in their law. He has the right to identity, has the right to education, has the right to health. So you can see so many things that are done in Lagos State, for instance, to suggest that, look, we are going to pursue this right. Has the right, a child will have the right to protection from exploitation, has the right to family environment, And then, there are also categories of children that face, that have vulnerabilities and what have you. So like orphans, street children, children with disabilities. So the government and the NGOs are expected to play critical roles in providing support for these groups. But the legal and social framework often is not as encompassing as one will expect. So you have a higher rate of vulnerable children out there. And you also have children that are exposed to conflicts in Boko Haram zones and what have you. So many stakeholders are trying their best to improve it, but we still have challenges here and there. So we can see that for some reason, the right of the child is not totally safeguarded, even in Nigeria as a now. So it behoves on communities, NGOs, to still see how they can pursue the interest more, so that there could be a more formidable angle to protecting the child's right. Now, in Lagos State, Lagos State, like I told you, they adopted the Child Rights Act in 2007. So that to become the Child Rights Law of Lagos State. So in Lagos State, for instance, it's very strict that the child, they're very strict about protection. And in fact, the courts now in Lagos, they have very, very robust way of attending to issue of children. Before, if you do the divorce in Lagos State, and you just want to talk about um, the the separation, or probably how the children will be taken care of, custody or what have you. It's more or less like maybe the right of that child is put in abeyance. Although in paper or on paper, suppose the child of that child is supposed to be addressed, because it's supposed to be the basic interest of the child that goes to the making of that decision of who the child should go to, or who should who should hold the child, who should have access to the child. They have child psychologists. They have a lot of robustness that allows the child to talk, and so they want to see, okay, what is the best interest for this child. So there's a right to life, there's survival, there's balanced development, the right to education. Children in Lagos are entitled to free and compulsory primary education with a focus on access and quality to promote lifelong learning. And really, I must say that Lagos is doing that. We might still be looking down on the fact, oh, is a Jack on this school or whatever. But in recent times, I've made some giant strides in trying to shape the quality of education and delivery in Lagos State. So you can see that, but all when they said this, just the point to look, we're doing in pursuant to child rights law of Lagos State. So there's a right to health, protection from exploitation. So right now you can see there's a law that speaks about domestic violence, vulnerable children, abuse, and what have you. In fact, in Lagos, I think Lagos mainly there's a court for special offences, especially sexual offences that relate to the infants or to relate to minor, and that court can be said to be very, very strict. The way they even treat, it's almost like they conclude that the accused person is guilty before he's even tried, which is maybe contrary to what it should be, that because you have to be proved guilty before you are deemed guilty. But that's so there's like a non-tolerance, as it were, for any abuse of child rights. And even some states, you can see that lately in Anambra State, a lawyer for that matter was said to have abused the house help, as it were, and so it becomes an issue that they had to arrest the lawyer because of the abuse and battering and whatever she gave the child. Of course, maybe in Nigeria, we still have that cultural milieu where you think that because I need somebody to come and take care of my children. So you have a child, a minor that's taking care of a minor. So as mechanism for adoption and foster care, orphan to give foster care to orphan or abandoned children. So there are so many issues. However, there are challenges. There's challenges in Lagos State and all over, maybe not only Lagos State, all over the states that we have an attempt to try to secure the rights of the child. There's still a lot in terms of the health and welfare care. The primary health care system is not robust enough to help. Total is not, because people who get there and they don't find what they need because maybe the drugs are not available or the equipment are not working. So there's still challenges that direction. Protection from abuse and exploitation. Like I said, Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency, there is established now to say, okay, if you're abusing a child or you're abusing a child, what have you, they can come arrest you and pick you up. So, and also in Lagos State, for instance, the rights of vulnerable and special needs children. In Lagos State, they have what they call this Special People's Law of Lagos State, which is addressing special needs children. And they also have schools for special needs, facility for special needs children, which I think that's only Lagos State. I don't know other states that has done that. So, but basically, let's now take it away from all these formal institutions to the private institutions, where you can see that there are so many NGOs out there too that are, they are helping to secure the rights of the child, one way or the other. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember the name of that that is Mirabel. Mirabel is there. Yaya Sisi is there. All those ones are, they are for children's rights, supporting them. And there's legal aid and support services, Office of the Public Defender, and there are a lot of public awareness campaigns out there. So, but there are challenges. There are challenges of inadequate funding, cultural and societal barriers is still there. Many people still feel like it's not right to go and report when you see an abuse, because it's like maybe we all, one way or the other, people of my generation, probably the generation following me, they were victim one way or the other of abuse, and so and it was not termed as abuse though. It was not termed as abuse. I still have people, my relatives abroad, who say that I still be my child. I still be my child. I don't all those remote things. I still be my child. Of course, because what a spanking of a child in, say, Britain will be seen as an abuse ordinarily, but in Nigeria, till tomorrow, till this afternoon, I still saw a woman spanking a 2-year-old child, as if the child knows what she's doing. So, so it's a culture that you find that is there. Poverty and economic inequality is also another issue. So you have a situation whereby, because of the economic power, you are exposed the children to what can be termed as abuse. And then there's inconsistencies of the law enforcement agencies or law enforcement itself, because maybe they don't even know as much. So that's why in some police stations in Lagos State, they have the child rights, human rights, child rights, corner. And even when you go there, you find out even the police people who are supposed to know more, they don't even know so much. They are always like, what are you talking about? What did he do? What didn't he do? And so you are asking, but you ought to have known much than this. But there's an effort at least that is put in place to secure some measure of comfort for these children who have been abused and things like that. So, and so I was not even talking about that poverty and economic reality, because sometimes you see in traffic, you see a child, selling things in traffic, and all around boys at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, you just know that this girl is vulnerable to anybody. I mean, when she's going back home, as it were. But nobody seems to mind, because look, at least they have to survive and what have you. So in essence, we have to address that issue. The right of the child is robust. It's just that, can it be enforced? That's the challenge. I know some of you are teachers, yeah, and there are instances when but sometimes you want to wonder, what exactly do some people understand by the right of child? I've seen situations whereby parents will go to school or institutions, or education institutions, and fight, literally fight. Say, don't beat my child, don't touch my child. It's against, and things like that. So, and it becomes debatable that, how do you want your child to be reprimanded, and how do you want that child's interest or future safeguarded? So sometimes there's a lot of debate about what is the right and what is not the right, and you have had clashes, as it were. So that's why this is quite a robust topic that you can never have the end of it. It will be a constant engagement that it keeps, you need to know more and much more. But like I said, I like to also share knowledge. So I'll be putting a stop at a pause to my discussion tonight, and maybe get feedback from you so that we can use that to also elaborate on some issues. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you, Barrister Tommy. This was just very excellent and straight to the point. At least I've given us an overview of what the Child Rights law is like, the Child Rights Act. And more importantly, we've come to know that it's a global issue. It's a global, cascaded down to Africa. to Nigeria, and then to the states in Nigeria. And quite impressive to know also that some states up to now haven't taken time to adopt this law, while some have taken time to do so and improving on the law, which is commendable. So all of this knowledge tonight that some of us didn't know or just knew in parts, but tonight you have been able to enlighten us to a great extent where we can now probably start finding our footings on such an important topic, knowing that children will always be with us and we have a lot to do with them in our community. So at this time, we're open to questions. You can put down your question in the chat box or indicate by with the signage of your hand on the icon here, so that we can call on you if you want to ask your question yourself. If you also want to put it down in the chat box, I can pick it from there and we'll discuss it. So while you're trying to do that, because we have to maximize this time tonight to ask him all the questions that we have in mind, I would like to bring to your attention just to ask, while people are coming up with their questions, what point, Barrister Tony, does this law of the Child Rights Act terminate?
There's never a time really that you are out of the purview of the covering of law. So you have from 0 to 18 is considered in the age of minority, which deserve that you have to be protected by law, things like that. That's why even for a sexual offense, even if there's a consent of an under 18, it's regarded that child was still veiled, was still he or she does not have the ability to give a legal consent, so it's still considered. So from 0 to 18, it's protected. After then, he enters adulthood. From adulthood, he gets all the law other people are getting as well. That's it. I see Alabaster Jar Foundation.
So let's have your question, Alabaster Jar Foundation. You can unmute and ask your question.
Oh, okay. Good evening, convener of this wonderful topic. Good evening, Barrister Tony.
Good evening, ma'am.
Well, I'm so impressed at what I've heard tonight is what we do, the Child Protection Network, Lagos State. But my issue is, why is it that it's only Lagos State and probably Ogun State that is so serious about this child's rights law? What is the issue? I can't understand why people are not interested in protecting a child. For instance, you remember a couple of years ago, they refused to put in a Child Marriage Act. Do you remember?
I do.
At the House of Rep.
Yeah.
I'm like, I really don't understand it, because I want to understand what is the resistance, what is the opposition. Is it this culture and tradition we are going to continue forever? I don't know what, as a lawyer, what are you people doing? What can we do? Because for me, I cannot bear to see a 30-year-old child being given out in marriage, and then nobody sees anything wrong with it. How long are we going to continue like this? Is it that we are going to just fold our arms and we're not going to do anything about it and say, oh, one day it will happen? One day it will happen. I'm asking because I don't understand it. Maybe the host of the program can tell us better.
Yeah. So I'm sure he will pick it up from there. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you for that question. Some of these things one of the things about, even in Lagos State, with all the plethora of laws that we have in Lagos State and all the provisions that were put in place, robustly so, you still find that that for some reasons the level of, let's say, execution or administration of that law is not as robust as one would have wanted. But so my own conclusion is that it's probably more of a cultural milieu, a cultural thing that we tend to have exhibited. Because on the average, I mean, till tomorrow, I wonder how. Because let me give you an example, man. There was a particular day about a year ago. I was in the filling station in the morning, and then I saw this lawyer dressed so well, and she was going to school with her children. And then there was a girl in the car that was about the age of those children of ours, and the girl was not going to school, but was coming. I think the girl was taken to that station to go and get the fuel and take home. This lawyer was dressed she's dressed in lawyer's garb. Have her children all dressed up for school. The girl, who is about the age of her children, was not dressed for school, was coming to come and carry fuel to the house. So I had to go to her. I said, lady, and like, why is she not going to school? Why are your children going to school and she's not going to school? Of course, she took offense in it. She took offense to it. That, it's like, what's the problem and whatever. But I said, like, but for me, I said, look, I don't know. I know you might be annoyed with me, but I think it's not right. You are psychologically getting this child on the wrong end, because you see your children going to school. So these are the cultural things that we see that may not allow the effective administration of those laws. Not only in Lagos, but almost everywhere, and states that believe in child marriage. Who knows? And I must also say this, that it's not now. I think, I must say this, that the marriage law of 1972, which is like a kind of throwback of Marriage Act of 1972, which is now under our laws of federation, actually accommodates marriage of a 12-year-old. Actually, the least age you can marry is from 12 years old for a girl and 14-year-old for a boy. That's the least age. But the law says that when anyone under 18 is to marry, he or she must provide a written parental consent. Written parental consent saying, I'm allowing that child to marry. And that law was taken actually from England. So that's what those people are saying, latching on. Look, this law, we're not going against anything. So long as the parents say that this child we can give this child out. So that's what they're latching on to. But we all know that this is a dangerous thing. There's a backlash for this kind of things. So maybe concerted effort, making all the lobbying and what have you, we are going to have a change of law as time progresses.
Interesting. So, what are the legal implications of adults who fail to protect the child's rights?
Yeah, it can be taken up for legal.
Yeah, just like the scenario that you tried to use for illustration here, and probably when someone gets to know or see how a child is, what are the legal implications for an adult who is
Of course, under Nigerian law, if you are seen to be indulgent, or maybe you are careless with the rights of the child, and maybe which led to the hurt of that child or the harm to that child, there can be negligence. It can be criminal negligence. There can be a criminal proceeding taken against you. Conduct likely to cause breach of harm or harm, grievous bodily harm. All those things are attributes of your negligence that you can. Maybe you left the child in a way that fire got burned by scalded by oil and hot thing. So, but the point is that how well prosecuted are this is another challenge, because you have a way in Nigeria, at least generally, to say that look, let's go and beg them. Let's and there are a lot of beggings and a lot of things that go with this. But ideally, because you see the point is that when there's a criminal matter, the criminal matter is not about the person actually. So let's assume that you caused a hurt to a child. It's not really about that child. It's about the law that you breached. So really, if it's a kind of less an objective crime, you find that regardless of whatever amends you make to that child, the prosecution will still go on, because it's not about that child. It's just that the child is a victim of your breach of the law. So the law will take its course. But in Nigeria, you find out so many beggings, so many Ejosa, Emma Benusa, and then you just push the case under the what do you call now? Under the carpet. Yes. Just to end, let me give you an example of one instance that happened not about 2 or 3 years ago. A church was having a kind of just by the next door, they have a creche. The church had a creche, but it's a church hall, but just by side, they are using the Sunday school for a creche. In the course of that, one of the children in that creche strayed into the church building, which was not close. And then playing, he went to go and touch a live wire. And then the child was electrocuted, died. Of course, it was a major case. So what did they do? What the people do? They had to go to the grandfather of that child, who is a pastor, to beg, please. And of course, that's how the case went down, because he just begged. But in another crime, nobody can beg, because the state will take it up and say, because you have caused death of a child, whether it's manslaughter or your negligence or so, has caused it. That will have been a major issue.
It looks like we're having a lot of challenges with cultural and traditional incursion in our society with the Child Rights Act. And so that brings us to another question here, asking that how do the legal system, when it comes to matters like custody, like foster care, what's the legal framework around that? Because those are like the foundation where if you know the implication of what you're doing in that area, probably it will help the adults who are in charge or who are taking custody or taking care for fostering of that child to sit up the more and probably pay attention. Even what you're saying about schools and churches, are there some legal framework around how the children are to be cared for while in school, or ensuring about their safety? Some of our school owners who are here tonight, it would be nice for you to probably enlighten us so that they are also aware, because ignorance of the law, like people say, is not an excuse.
Yeah, any child, I see the point that okay, you see, let's put it this way, there's what they call occupier's liability, in law, which simply means that whenever, not even just a child, but whenever, like your house, when you somebody comes visiting you, for as long as they're within your vicinity of your influence, you owe them the duty to take care of them, to ensure their safety. You owe them that duty. Even if that's why you have to be locking your gates. If you don't want people to come into your door, to come into your house, you have to lock so that the access is restricted. But the moment they come, whether they straight into your compound or what have you, you owe them the duty to make sure that their safety is guaranteed until they leave that. That's why if you don't want them, you put no trespasses, you put dog on something, you lock your gates so that you see they're jumping over. That means that they are taking in advance. But now let's go to school. The issue of school, when you open the door of the school, like we are admitting, then it behoves you totally to ensure that that child, from start to finish, is taken care of. You cannot be seen to be saying you are negligent. In fact, I've seen school owners who, and administrators who, became burdened by the reason of a minder, maybe a teacher who did not do properly what she do, and maybe the child fell, or two children fought, and then they hurt themselves. That's negligence. And when you come to law, civil, not even criminal now, there might not be a crime in that sense, but there's what they call the aspect of tort. Tort is about civil wrong. That's where I can sue you for negligence. I can sue the school for negligence in their duty or dereliction of their duty to safeguard my child while in their care. So it behoves any that's to do. There's a program that I did on Unilag. They have a consult or on special needs and what have you, and school administration and whatever. They're talking about this thing about safety and what have you. So you see that kind of like emergencies can happen. That's why I have to think about, their children. For instance, a fire outbreak, maybe like a fire alarm. How do you ensure that those children are safeguarded? Because where would they run to? Where would a 2-year-old run to? And even in the course of running, he breaks his leg or runs into something. That does not absolve you of the liability. That's why all school administrators, it's very important that you take note of these little things about rights of the child. Because you're not excused. You're not excused when it happens.
Interesting. So, excuse. And it's important that we also get ourselves acquainted with these laws so that one would be able to probably pass that on even to the schools, the minders themselves.
Even Sunday schools, lesson teachers,
Okay.
church programs that you have children or the adults are somewhere. Okay, don't bring your children into the main program. Go and keep them in creche or have them in the play area and whatever. So all those things, maybe your playground, how safe is the playground? How good or how wide are those swings that they are putting on? How taut the rope that is holding those, if a child just maybe snaps, this rope snaps and then lands on the ground and there's a paralysis or something, God forbid, you cannot absolve yourself of any blame. You cannot. In fact, if you have a swing in your compound and you do not lock the gate and children come into your compound to come and play with that swing and they got injured in the course of that, you cannot be here to say that I cannot invite them.
We're still taking more questions. At least we have a few minutes still left. Like I said, if you don't want to ask, you can send your questions here either directly to me or in the chat box, or also raise your hand and then I will call on you. So I'm seeing Alabaster Jar hand raised. Is that a new one?
Yes, thank you so much. It's a new one.
Nice.
I'm really enjoying this topic. Thank you so much. I want to talk about, you mentioned about the police. Though you just mentioned it briefly. But I want to talk about the police because we have issues with police in Nigeria. How are we going to solve the issue when we know that our police force are so corrupt? A child is defiled by the father. Then you go to police. Police will, because he has been bribed, will do everything possible to cover up the father. How do you go about cases like this? Because we cannot continue to see children going down the drain from emotional trauma. Their lives, like, as far as I'm concerned, almost ruined, except they get to, maybe to meet with the Lord. They are broken, they are lost, and police will be telling you, hiding the case, like you said, sweeping the case under the carpet. What are we going to do with police? I cannot tell you the number of cases that we have handled in Child Protection Network where police will be so terrible, you won't even believe that the police you are talking to is also a father or a parent. So what do? You are the lawyer. These are law enforcement agents.
The
What
law,
do we do?
more like the case. Yeah.
Thank you very much, ma. I hear you, and I mean I hear you, and because I've also seen that, I've seen that, occasioned. So what I'll just say that maybe advocacy is that's why I have advocacy organizations who take it upon themselves. Look, I'm going to go by courts. I'm going to do enforcement of the rights of the child, and also under the law right now. The law has permitted anyone to take up a case of a child without necessarily being related to that child. You can take it up and get a lawyer or take it up as an advocacy group, to that for that child. Because I agree with you, not that sometimes not just about corruption, sometimes about the ignorance of even the attendant laws that need to be used very well. So sometimes I have seen instances when we went to police station, we stayed there. At the end of the day, the police still say, look, our hands are tied and blah, blah, blah. And, the case and the man just basically walked free out of that kind of, you can see that, he's basically defining his children. But you see, that's the issue about the milieu. For some reason, like for instance, in Lagos State, you find that it's almost like once a person gets to court, it's almost given that it's going to be like life sentence or so. But sometimes I've sat down in cases when I'm just wondering, for some reason, how are we sure that this person did what they said he did, or what? Because there has to be a balance. There has to be a balance, but at the same time, the balance cannot be weighed against the child. That's to know, okay, what do we do? How do you put it? But we need to know more education, more cultural orientation, so that police can see it as a duty that they have to do with diligence. Their search must be done appropriately, and if they have convinced that this guy are doing it, they should go ahead and get him charged to court.
Okay, so we have 2 questions here. One sent to me directly, and then the one on the chat box. So let me start with the one on the chat box. He said, why are most states not keying in concerning the child rights, especially in the East?
Yeah,
I know you did mention that some states, so I think that's where.
Yeah, because you see, I think it's just cultural. It's just cultural dispensation and milieu and what have you. Maybe not to that large degree, but child marriage is still practiced somewhat, even in the East. Child marriage, you still have 16-year-old, 15-year-old girl getting married. So what's the difference between 13 and 15? So the culture, the culture is still permissive of this thing. So for them, prioritizing child's rights law is not an issue for them, because I mean I know you find very many I'm not missing very many, in Lagos State, for instance, asking that a child should go and learn a walk. Somehow a child can be arrested or kind of taken, and then they're even taken away from the parents by law, because you have not allowed that to go to school or him to go to school. Or in the East, for instance, at 10, 12, you are sending a child to go for boy. So it becomes like that's against the law. But so if you come and do that child's right law, so that means you're going to criminalize boy apprenticeship. No, they don't want to do that because they thrive in that. So that's why you can see the hues of cultural differences and cultural milieu that is shaping the acceptance of all, as it were. Even in Lagos State, you see that even though they beat Lagos State quickly, the enforcement rate in Lagos State is still very low. The threshold is very low. And because you see a lot of children who are on the streets in Lagos State, hawking and doing what have you, so going for apprenticeship and what have you. So you're just asking, is there a law actually in place? That's just it.
Okay, I believe that was that's been answered. So it's still the same resistance of cultural and traditional incursions. So someone is asking, is it illegal when a parent is forcing or insisting that a child read a particular course in the university, knowing fully well that will be beneficial to that child, and being a parent, probably seeing ahead more than the child.
It's not illegal to cancel a child.
Okay.
It's not illegal to cancel a child.
Not to force.
But not to force. Because the law, especially under the United Nations, the Convention on the Rights of the Child, it says that a child must have a voice, must have a voice. It should speak. He has a right to voice out his mind concerning his life. So if you are told, oh, go and read this course, go and do this course, it should not be do it or otherwise. No, just a matter of cancel the child to know why. And if the child insists that this is what I want to do, then why not? Why not? You should not become a basis of hating the child or disregarding the child or what have you. So that's just it's wrong. And I must say this, I'm wanted to say that, and that's why when it comes to divorce cases or separation cases, the court is very sensitive about the rights of the child, because ultimately it's not about the parents, it's not about the mother or the father, it's about that child. So they want to say, look, whether the father has a lot of money does not mean that that child has the best interest covered that father, or whether the mother has a lot of love. Just matter, let's objectively look at the interest of the child, and then the basis of that, make a decision that will favor the child.
The child. Thank you very much, Barrister Tommy. We have a hand. Yes. Tayan, can you go ahead and unmute and ask your question?
Thank you. You call my name the way the Americans will call my name. My name is a Nigerian from the middle belt of Nigeria. It is pronounced Kanyang.
Kanyang.
So don't worry. And don't bite your tongue.
Thank you.
I live in a rural community. It is like 18 kilometers away from the city of Jos in Plateau State. And what is obtainable here, sadly, is child neglect because of the culture. If any of you here knows Plateau State and Jos very well, you will know that the host community where I live, the women from this community are the business women in the city of Jos, hawking yams, pepper, tomatoes, and the rest of them. And what happens is a mother will leave the house on Monday morning. There will be a group of 6-7 women from the same community who will rent a room in the city of Jos and stay there, run their business, and come back on Saturday. And these children are left at the mercies of aged grandparents or younger siblings who themselves are children and have been turned to parents. And the fathers, unfortunately, some fathers, unfortunately, and a large number of them, unfortunately, are irresponsible. They don't care about their children. And those who are responsible don't even understand. Yeah, I don't know. African culture is beautiful. I don't want to say this, but unfortunately, they don't see the responsibility of taking care of their children as theirs. I moved into this community a few years ago, and for me to see these things, it hurts me. I have tried to, I joined the CPN just for this particular reason. Now, something as basic as primary education, where schooling is equal to free. The only thing they can do is pay 1,200 at most for a child to go to school. The parents will still not give. And I tell you, it's not that they are poor. They have the money, but the idea is not there. Now I raise my hand to ask this question because we're talking about the rights of the child. I am conversant with the fact that the Child Rights Act, or is now a law, right, has been passed in my state. And I know that basic education is one. So how can I don't know if anybody here can help me. How how can I ensure that these people, it becomes a culture that at least something as basic as primary school. I know the standard of the primary school is not good, the quality is not good, but for me, it is better than not going to school at all. So how can someone in my position help fight for the rights of these children? I understand that it's not an individual action. I understand that it has to be a collaborative thing with youth leaders, community leaders, and all of that. So awareness. I don't know where we are going in Nigeria.
So
this is just felt.
Can I don't want Kenyang.
It's okay. Call me KG for short.
I hear you and I feel the pain. From Benue, even from the east, after let's say even from Ondo, all the rest down to Benue, back Jos. Like you said, Jos had just passed their own law. There is this what you call a fundamental mental disposition of neglecting the child. They like to have the children, but it's like they don't understand the right of the children. And so even if you try to help, they might even find it offensive. They might even like you are snatching their children away from them, even they are not giving. So what I think has to do with more of education, more of awareness, and then at the same time you do advocacy with the government. If only government will listen to come and see how they can bring the school closer to these people, how they can do a drive through their local chiefs and local work. Because I know in some culture, particularly around that your Jaws, the men could be very irresponsible. I mean, pardon my language, my French, very, very responsible. All they know is about impregnating a woman, and thereafter they don't do anything much, just to drink and drink and drink. And so the women feel compelled to go and get survival. Okay, so their own justification is that at least I'm feeding these children. At least I'm able to come back and give these children some money or some measure of comfort. If the man is not helping me, so what? So maybe that, and that is not just now, ma. It's not now. It's been there time immemorial. That is a culture that has been there. So maybe advocacy and state government pursuit more, but that's if they have the time for that. That's so sadly to say, so sadly. So maybe now you can now do an NGO of international repute, so I can take this plight, highlight it on that international plane, so that there could be more intervention, maybe from point they are going to allow you that way. Or you can also sue them if you want to sue them. Sue them. If you want to sue them, sue the parents and say, look, I'm suing for negligence of your children. But I'm sure there will be backlash. I'm sure.
But Barrister Tommy, are there specific things we can do now, taking it away from the global level of advocacy, of acting the international community? I mean, for everyday life, if I'm trying to understand what KG was saying, is there anything as parents or even mentors or people who work directly or indirectly with children that we can do every day, like in our everyday life, to increase the advocacy for these children, the Child Rights Act? Is there some specific things, specific roles we can play?
Let's see. Let me tell you. I celebrate what this platform. It's a fundamental. I mean, someone said here. It's a very informative. Thanks, sir. Wow, interesting revelation here. You know, this little thing that we have done tonight would also, unleash some knowledge that can translate to empowering those practitioners, because it's a culture-based disposition, mental disposition, and it's a tough battle to fight because you find that no matter, it's just like, if you have a taste of Eba, even if you go and eat a lot of peas, what I call it, you eat a lot of things, you still be hungry for the Eba one way or the other. So it's just a matter of understanding that these things cannot totally change. Totally. Like for instance, let me give you an aside. The human rights advocates will say that, look, you don't kill ram like for But here, you try to prepare load of what culture that is like, how can you, how dare you? Same thing with children rights. Many people don't see, maybe, and most of us here, or maybe few of us here, will have got that deprivations as children. Just like when we grew up, we now saw it, oh, it's bad, but people don't say it.
I said I also want to use this medium to add voice to another child violation, child rights violation I see sadly on the platform, and that has to do with having minors in illegal mining sites.
Yes.
Because of the poverty, because of the poverty and the economy, a lot of children, including 8 years, going to illegal mining sites and coming back home with 500 naira to give out to collect and see the child has contributed. The madness I see every day, I don't know how I'm not using Kubuku to chase adults in the village. So it's sad, and it is all over my state, particularly in the northern part of Plateau, because God has blessed us naturally with tin. And those illegal mining sites are ungodly places. The evil and atrocities that go on there, and there are young children there. I'm just sharing this to add my voice to the cries. We're asking the government to step in and do something and protect children. I just want the government to even shut down those illegal mining sites.
Don't keep quiet. It's just keep your own way. Just as you have shown up on this program now, other programs like that, keep adding your voice, asking them. Little you could do. Hopefully to get to the ears of and then do something.
Okay.
There's somebody.
Thank you very much, Barrister Tommy.
Okay.
Okay. I'm not sure there's any other question, but if there is, we would have to continue in our platform because we are 12 minutes already. We have overshot by 12 minutes. It's supposed to be a 1-hour program, and we're grateful for everyone that showed up. Like I said, if you're in our evening and bedtime, but you have been gracious enough to stay from the beginning of this program till now. And it's interesting to know that most of the things that we take for granted, without even knowing that this is error, tonight we've been enlightened and encouraged also to responsibility of these actions and probably educate more, lighten more people, because it seems like a lot of people don't even know that these things are error. And that's why we have a parent group where we come together to talk about these things, basically family values, because we have discovered that no matter how much you do in terms of loving a child, into the child on a nice footing, without the right family values, you will definitely have a problem. And we'll have a bigger problem in the society when the families are having problems, when the families are having misplaced priority and they're not having values, positive values that people can look at and then be rest assured that your child will be able to make quality decisions because of what they have seen, the life they have seen you live, the responsibility they have seen you take. So as it is, I'm sure if you look at the chat room, you would see a coordination that's nice, and for this session to have come to you. So many of empowering parents and all the mentors, people who are very great influencers in the society, join this group so that we can push this advocacy and ensure that our families are in the right place and that we raise children who are ready to make a difference anywhere in the world. The world is now a global village, just like what you saw him when he started. He gave us the global aspect of the law. And we saw that that is what has cascaded down to our very even local governments. So if we can come together to have a voice, stand for the right values, you can be sure that we'll be making very tremendous progress. Thank you, Barrister Tommy, for coming in. Thank you for taking up this session, because truly ignorance of the law, once again, is no excuse. So it's better you are aware and know how to avoid the legal consequences that would come, and be able to enlighten other people with you, around you, to let them know that this is error. You don't have to walk error. And that's exactly what you have done tonight. A big thank you to you.
Having me. Thank you.
And we'll pray that when next we come to you, you'll be willing to answer us, so probably enlighten us the more. And a big thank you to everyone who had come this far. Take advantage of the links that has been shared so that you can follow and know more of the things that we do. And we're open for collaborations, because I'm seeing a lot of like minds here that I'm saying, and engage there. It's a good thing if you can talk how to do greater things than what we're doing tonight. And thank you on it here. I'm so grateful. I'm rooting for you for everything we're learning, so that we can make a difference in our little spheres that we're finding ourselves.
Everyone, thank you very much.
Yeah.